There's a difference between a woman who simply talks and a woman who speaks with power. High-value communication isn't about saying more. It's about saying less, but with intention. It's about the way tone, timing, and choice of words reflect self-respect. When she speaks, she doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, and she doesn't argue. She talks in a way that makes him lean closer, not pull away. This is how a high-value woman talks. She understands that her words are like threads weaving an impression, so she never throws them around carelessly. A high-value woman chooses clarity over chaos because she knows that confusion in conversation always leads to misunderstandings, unnecessary tension, and eventually a weakening of connection. When she speaks with intention. There is no stumbling around in endless explanations or burying her truth under layers of hesitation. Instead, her words are precise, her tone is steady, and the person listening feels a calm sense of direction. This clarity doesn't mean she is cold or mechanical. It means she is grounded, centered, and free from the desperate need to overprove herself. Imagine a moment when someone challenges her or tests her patience. She doesn't spiral into defensive rants or lose herself in emotional storms. Instead, she chooses her words like a sculptor choosing where to carve. She says only what is necessary, stripping away the clutter of exaggerated emotions or irrelevant details. That simplicity is powerful because it leaves no space for misinterpretation. The man she speaks to doesn't walk away confused about her feelings or intentions. He walks away understanding exactly where she stands. That is how she eliminates chaos before it has a chance to grow. Clarity is also about pacing. She does not rush to fill the silence with scattered sentences just to ease her discomfort. She knows silence can be a tool, and sometimes the pause between words speaks louder than words themselves. By slowing down, by allowing space for her message to sink in, she communicates more with less. Her clarity is amplified because she gives her words room to breathe. That alone sets her apart from someone who talks in circles or drowns meaning in a flood of unnecessary chatter. This kind of communication also builds trust. People feel safe when they know where they stand with someone, and a high-value woman's clarity provides that stability. Her words are not full of mixed signals or hidden traps. She does not say, "Hoot's fine," when it is not fine, and she does not mask her needs in vague hints or passive, aggressive tones. Instead, she says what she means, and she means what she says. That honesty, wrapped in composure, becomes magnetic. It makes the listener lean in with respect rather than pull back with frustration. Clarity also reflects self-respect. A woman who values herself will not twist her words just to please or manipulate. She knows that if someone cannot handle her truth expressed in a clear and graceful way, then that person does not belong in her circle. Chaos comes from insecurity, but clarity comes from confidence. She doesn't need to shout, exaggerate, or over-explain because her presence already carries weight. And so, when she speaks, there is no fog, no guessing, no hidden agenda. There is only the gentle but firm power of a woman who knows herself. She embodies clarity over chaos, and in doing so, she turns every conversation into a reflection of her worth. When she speaks, her words carry invisible boundaries, lines drawn not to push away, but to protect her space and her peace. She doesn't need to shout, threaten, or argue to be understood. Instead, her communication itself reflects where the limits are. A high-value woman knows that boundaries are not about control. They are about respect, both for herself and for others. And so when she speaks, her boundaries are clear without being harsh. They sound calm, collected, and unshakable, like a steady flame that cannot be blown out by the winds of pressure or persuasion. She has mastered the art of saying no without guilt. She doesn't decorate her refusals with endless apologies or long explanations. She simply says, "That doesn't work for me," or "I'm not available at that time," and leaves it at that. The strength of her words lies in their simplicity. She knows that over-explaining is a form of self-doubt, so she chooses instead to stand in quiet certainty. That certainty tells the other person that her boundaries are not open for negotiation, not because she is rigid, but because she respects her time, her energy, and her values. Her tone is everything. Even when drawing a line, she does not sound defensive or angry, because she understands that hostility is unnecessary when her presence already conveys authority. Instead, she speaks as though her words are the final word on the subject, not out of arrogance but out of assurance. The result is that her boundaries feel natural, even undeniable. They don't create tension, they create clarity. The man listening doesn't feel attacked, but he does feel the strength of her resolve. Boundaries in her speech also come in the way she redirects conversations. If someone tries to push her into topics she doesn't wish to entertain, she gracefully guides the dialogue elsewhere without apology. If someone crosses into disrespect, she calmly signals that the behavior is unacceptable. Her boundaries are not walls, they are filters, deciding what can pass and what must stop. That subtle art of communication prevents chaos from taking root in her interactions. What makes her boundaries powerful is that they are consistent. She doesn't say one thing today and tolerate the opposite tomorrow. Her words align with her actions. So when she says no, it truly means no. And when she says yes, it carries full commitment. This consistency earns her respect because people learn that her words are not empty or flexible based on convenience. They carry weight, they matter, and they define the space she moves in. Her communication of boundaries is not only about refusing, it's also about affirming. She expresses what she appreciates, what she values, and what she expects in a way that inspires respect rather than resistance. By speaking her boundaries calmly, she teaches others how to treat her without ever needing to lecture them. Her presence becomes the lesson, and her words become the gentle but firm reminder that her world operates with dignity. This is why her boundaries do not sound like barriers. They sound like self-respect spoken out loud. And that, more than anything, makes her voice impossible to ignore. She knows that directness is not the enemy of femininity. In fact, it is what makes her presence magnetic. When she speaks, she doesn't dance around her truth or hide behind vague hints that leave the other person confused. She communicates with respect and precision, the kind of directness that cuts through uncertainty but never wounds. Her words are firm, but her tone is graceful. She says what she means without hesitation, yet without stripping away warmth. This balance is what makes her communication unforgettable. She is both clear and kind, both strong and feminine. She does not waste time playing games or disguising her intentions behind layers of mystery that lead nowhere. Instead, her directness becomes a form of honesty that feels refreshing in a world full of mixed signals. When she says she likes something, she means it. When she says she doesn't, she means that too. There is no guessing, no decoding, no second guessing what she truly feels. The man who listens to her realizes that he is hearing her truth, not a performance or a test. That respect for herself and for the listener creates an atmosphere where genuine connection can grow. Her directness does not come from arrogance, but from security within herself. She doesn't feel the need to twist her words to be liked or to manipulate outcomes. She knows that the right people will appreciate her honesty and the wrong ones will walk away. That simple reality frees her to speak with a kind of effortless openness. She doesn't cling to approval, so her words carry no desperation. They flow naturally, like water taking the shape of its container but never losing its essence. Direct communication also saves her energy. Instead of over-explaining or repeating herself to be understood, she chooses clarity the first time. She expresses her desires, her limits, and her thoughts in a way that leaves little room for misinterpretation. And yet, because she wraps this directness in respect, it never feels demanding. She can say, "I need this," or "that doesn't feel right to me," without raising her voice or hardening her heart. The strength lies in her delivery, the gentle but unshakable confidence that says she does not need to argue her worth. This way of speaking also earns her admiration. People respect those who are unafraid to be real, and her ability to communicate directly sets her apart from those who avoid confrontation by hiding behind silence or pretending everything is fine. She doesn't shy away from expressing what she wants, but she never does it in a way that strips the dignity of the other person. Her honesty uplifts rather than diminishes. It shows that she can be trusted because her words match her truth. She understands that directness is not about being blunt or careless. It is about being authentic while still choosing words that respect the moment and the person. She makes eye contact, she speaks calmly, and she allows her truth to stand on its own. That combination is rare, and it creates a kind of presence that is difficult to forget. Her directness is her strength, and her respectfulness is her elegance. Together, they define her voice. She carries herself like someone who has mastered the art of emotional control, and it shows in every word she speaks. She does not let anger dictate her tone, nor does she let fear or insecurity slip into her sentences. Instead, she remains composed, steady, and grounded, even when the conversation becomes heated or when emotions run high. Her calmness is not a mask. It is a reflection of her discipline, of her ability to pause and breathe before letting words escape her lips. This emotional control gives her an advantage because while others may lose themselves in impulsive reactions, she remains the anchor in the storm. Her power lies in restraint. She does not rush to respond when provoked. She understands that silence can be a strategy, that waiting a few seconds before replying can change the entire energy of a conversation. By controlling her emotions, she controls her words, and by controlling her words, she controls the direction of the exchange. This is not about manipulation, but about wisdom. She knows that once words are spoken in anger or panic, they cannot be taken back. So she chooses carefully, filtering her emotions until only clarity remains. This composure commands respect. When she speaks without being reactive, she automatically shifts the balance of power. Others are forced to adjust their energy to match hers, because she refuses to be dragged into chaos. If someone raises their voice, she doesn't mirror it. She lowers hers, creating an atmosphere where calmness feels heavier than shouting. Her emotional control disarms conflict because it is impossible to fight with someone who refuses to feed the fire. Her tone, under control, becomes magnetic. A man listening to her senses that she is unshaken, that she cannot be rattled by games, pressure, or emotional manipulation. That quiet strength intrigues him because it shows she belongs to herself before she belongs to anyone else. She doesn't allow external circumstances to dictate her internal state, and that independence is powerful. People chase emotional stability, and in her presence, they feel it radiating through her words. Emotional control also protects her from regret. She doesn't say things she doesn't mean just to win an argument or to release a burst of frustration. She doesn't make promises she can't keep or threats she never intends to follow through on. Her words are consistent with her truth, and because her emotions are steady, her speech is steady as well. She creates harmony by refusing to let her feelings hijack her wisdom. What makes this so striking is that her control is never cold. She does not numb herself or suppress emotion. Instead, she channels it. She allows herself to feel deeply, but chooses carefully how much of that feeling to release in words. When she does speak from emotion, it is intentional, measured, and meaningful. Her vulnerability is powerful precisely because it is not chaotic, it is clear, pure, and untainted by loss of control. In this way, her emotional balance makes her unforgettable. She speaks like someone who cannot be shaken, someone whose calmness in chaos feels like a safe harbor. And in a world full of noise and reactivity, her ability to control her emotions makes her voice the one that rises above the rest. She speaks in a way that sparks curiosity rather than judgment because she knows that conversations are not battles to win, but bridges to build. Instead of confronting someone with accusations or making assumptions about their motives, she opens the dialogue with questions that invite honesty. Her language is not, "Why did you do that?" but rather, "What was going through your mind when you made that choice?" That small shift transforms the energy of the exchange. Her words show that she seeks to understand, not to attack. And in that moment, walls come down. People open up to her because she makes them feel safe to be real. Curiosity has a magnetic quality. It draws people in, making them feel seen and valued. A high-value woman understands this deeply, so she uses her words to explore instead of to corner. She doesn't assume she already knows everything. She doesn't fill conversations with her own voice alone. Instead, she listens with intention, asking questions that show genuine interest in the other person's perspective. This creates an atmosphere of connection rather than defensiveness. Her curiosity says, "I care enough to learn who you are." And that message resonates far louder than judgment ever could. Her curiosity also reveals her confidence. Only a secure woman can ask questions without fear of the answers. She doesn't need every response to match her expectations because she knows that truth, even when it is uncomfortable, is more valuable than a comfortable lie. By approaching conversations with openness, she shows that she is strong enough to handle reality. That strength makes her trustworthy because it signals that she does not run from honesty. Instead, she embraces it even if it challenges her. The way she frames her curiosity matters. She doesn't interrogate or corner the person with rapid-fire demands. She uses tone and pacing that invite rather than pressure. Her voice might soften slightly, her words might slow down, creating space for the other person to step into. The man she is speaking to doesn't feel judged, doesn't feel tested. He feels encouraged to share. That experience is rare, and it makes her presence unforgettable. Her questions also deepen the connection. Instead of staying on the surface, she gently guides conversations into meaningful territory. She asks what inspires him, what challenges him, what dreams he holds quietly in the corners of his mind. These are not casual questions, they are invitations to open his soul. And because she does not rush, because her curiosity is patient, he feels no need to hide. Slowly, he reveals more, and with every revelation, the bond between them grows stronger. Most importantly, her curiosity is free of judgment. She doesn't punish honesty, nor does she weaponize vulnerability. Instead, she holds space for it, allowing the conversation to expand naturally. This shows that she values understanding over control, and that is what makes her stand out. Her ability to create dialogue that feels like discovery, not interrogation. In this way, her words become a mirror reflecting not only who she is, but also who the other person is allowed to be in her presence. She sparks curiosity instead of judgment, and that simple choice turns every conversation into a moment of truth and connection. Her words are never thrown casually into the air. They carry a subtle weight, a reflection of her inner standards. She does not announce those standards loudly or demand them from others with force. Instead, the way she speaks makes them undeniable. Every phrase, every choice of tone quietly reveals what she will accept and what she will never tolerate. This is not arrogance, but self-respect. A high-value woman doesn't try to convince others of her worth. She allows her standards to shine through her communication, and those who recognize it respond with respect. When she speaks, she does not plead for effort or beg for attention. She doesn't chase validation through words. Instead, she affirms what is valuable to her by stating it with calm certainty. She might say, "I appreciate consistency," or "I value honesty above all," and leave it there. There is no lecture, no demand, just a simple declaration of what matters to her. In that moment, anyone listening understands that these are not negotiable. They are not rules shouted into existence. They are reflections of the life she has already chosen to live. Her standards also show in what she refuses to say. She doesn't gossip, she doesn't degrade herself, and she doesn't complain endlessly about what she doesn't have. Instead, her words focus on growth, on value, on solutions. This choice separates her from those who drain conversations with negativity. By keeping her speech aligned with her values, she communicates strength without needing to emphasize it directly. The man who listens to her hears more than words. He hears the echo of discipline, of dignity, of quiet confidence. What makes her presence even more striking is that her standards do not come wrapped in harshness. She never needs to belittle anyone to make a point. She simply states what she requires and allows others to decide whether they can meet it. Her words are not ultimatums, they are invitations. She doesn't force anyone to rise to her level. She gives them the choice. And that choice is powerful because it creates an unspoken truth. If they cannot align with her standards, she will not bend herself to fit theirs. The way she speaks about herself also reveals her expectations. She doesn't downplay her achievements or mask her ambitions. She talks about her life with quiet pride, and through that, she sets the tone for how she should be treated. Others learn that she values herself highly, and so they instinctively value her the same way. Standards are contagious. When she carries them in her words, they influence the entire atmosphere around her. Her language builds an invisible frame around her. A man who listens carefully realizes that she doesn't need to ask for respect. It's already embedded in every sentence. She doesn't need to say, "I won't accept less," because the way she speaks makes it obvious. She holds herself with dignity, and her voice reflects that dignity. This is the secret of her power. She affirms her worth not by demanding it, but by embodying it. Her standards speak louder than any argument ever could, and through them, she makes it clear that anyone in her presence must rise or fade away. She never needs to announce that she is high value because her presence, her words, and her silence already prove it. The way she communicates, calm, direct, boundaried, curious, and rooted in self-respect, sets her apart without effort. She doesn't chase validation, doesn't over-explain, and doesn't lower herself to chaos. Instead, she speaks in a way that draws others closer, makes them listen, and leaves them with no doubt about her worth. A high-value woman talks with clarity, with grace, and with unwavering strength, and that is why her voice lingers long after the conversation ends. A high-value woman doesn't just communicate with words, she communicates with presence. Every sentence she speaks carries clarity, every boundary she sets reflects self-respect, every tone she uses shows emotional control, and every question she asks creates connection instead of conflict. She doesn't prove her worth, she embodies it. And because she holds herself to a higher standard, others naturally rise to meet it. This is why her voice is remembered, why her presence is respected, and why her conversations leave a lasting mark. She talks in a way that reflects who she is, a woman of value, a woman of strength, a woman who cannot be ignored.